The war had been going on for 12 long years. Humans fought against the Valori, a race of tall aliens with silver blue skin and glowing violet eyes. Nobody remembered why it started anymore. They only knew how to fight. Park Do-won was 29 years old. He served as a combat medic aboard the Terran ship called the Horizon. His job was to save lives, not take them. He had seen so much death that it haunted his dreams. But he never stopped caring. That was his weakness and his strength. His fellow soldiers often joked about it. Do-won would bandage a Valori if he found one bleeding, they said. They meant it as an insult. Do-won never argued. He simply shrugged and went back to his work. The attack on Corinth Station came on a cold morning in space. The Terran fleet had been hunting the Valori flagship for months. They called it the Ascendant Dawn. It was the pride of the Valori Third Fleet, commanded by someone the humans had learned to fear. They said the commander was ruthless, brilliant, and without mercy. Do-won did not care about commanders or flagships. He cared about keeping his squad alive. The battle was brutal. Terran soldiers breached the Valori ship through its damaged hull. Alarms screamed through metal corridors. Lights flickered between red and darkness. The smell of burning filled the air. Do-won stayed close to his squad, treating wounds as they pushed deeper into the enemy vessel. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder. He ignored the pain and kept moving. There would be time to bleed later. Then the explosion happened. A Valori grenade detonated near a support column. The blast threw Do-won sideways. His helmet cracked against the wall. When he opened his eyes, he was alone. The corridor behind him had collapsed. His squad was on the other side, their voices muffled by tons of twisted metal. "Lieutenant Park!" Someone shouted through his damaged radio. "Are you alive?" "I'm fine," Do-won lied. His ribs screamed with every breath. "Go on without me. I'll find another way." He stumbled forward through the smoke. His rifle hung useless at his side. The power cell had cracked in the blast. He was now a medic without backup, a soldier without a weapon, lost deep inside an enemy ship. The corridor he followed led him away from the fighting. The sounds of battle grew distant. He passed through areas that looked different from military sections. The walls here had soft colors. There were pictures on the walls, strange alien art that he could not understand. Living quarters, he realized. Families lived here. A new kind of fear touched his heart. War between soldiers was one thing, but families meant children. Children meant innocence caught in a nightmare they did not create. He heard it then. A small sound, almost lost beneath the groaning of damaged metal. A cry. High and thin and terrified. Do-won followed the sound. He found her in a room that might have been a nursery. The ceiling had partially collapsed. Fires burned in the corners, spreading slowly toward the center. And there, trapped beneath a fallen beam, was a child. She was small, maybe 6 years old by human standards. Her skin was the silver blue of her people. Her violet eyes were huge with terror. Small horns curved gracefully from her temples. She was Valori. She was the enemy dot. She was just a scared little girl. "Please," she whimpered in broken Terran. Someone had taught her the enemy's language. "Please help." Do-won did not hesitate. He dropped to his knees beside her, ignoring the flames that crept closer. His hands found the beam that pinned her legs. It was heavy, far too heavy for one man. "I'm going to get you out," he told her. His voice was calm even though his heart raced. "I need you to be brave. Can you do that for me?" The child nodded, tears streaming down her silver cheeks. Do-won pulled at the beam. His muscles screamed. His cracked ribs sent fire through his chest. The beam moved an inch, then two. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Above them, the ceiling groaned. More debris was coming down. He had seconds at most. Do-won made his choice. He wedged his own body beneath the collapsing structure, using his back and shoulders to hold it up. The weight was crushing. He felt something crack in his spine. Pain exploded through his entire being, but his arms were free. He grabbed the child and pushed her toward the gap he had created. "Go," he shouted. "Crawl out, now." The little girl scrambled forward on hands and knees. She was small enough to fit through the space. She was almost free. The ceiling gave way. Do-hwan felt the impact like the fist of a god. Darkness swallowed his vision. The last thing he saw was the child escaping through a doorway, looking back at him with those huge violet eyes. She was safe. That was enough. Park. Do-hwan closed his eyes and let the darkness take him. He did not expect to ever open them again. Far above, in the command center of the Ascendant Dawn, Lady Yuna received word that her daughter was missing. She had sent Sora to the safe room hours ago, the safe room that was now buried under debris. She ran through the burning corridors of her own ship, her heart breaking with every step. She was a commander, a warrior, a leader of thousands. But she was also a mother, and her child was gone. When she found Sora, alive and crying but unharmed, Yuna fell to her knees and held her daughter so tight that neither could breathe. "A human saved me," Sora whispered. "A human with kind eyes. He is still in there, Mother. He is dying." Yuna looked at the collapsed room. She looked at her daughter. She looked at the fires still burning around them. She made her choice too. "Find him," she ordered her soldiers. "Find the human and bring him to my ship. Keep him alive. I do not care what it costs." The soldiers exchanged confused glances but obeyed. The war would continue. The fighting would go on. But in that moment, something had changed. A human had saved a Valori child, and nothing would ever be the same again. Do-hwan woke up slowly, like swimming up from deep water. His body felt strange, heavy but not painful. That surprised him. He remembered pain. He remembered the ceiling falling. He remembered darkness. He should be dead. The room around him was unlike anything he had ever seen. Soft violet light came from panels on the walls. They pulsed gently, like something alive and breathing. The air smelled clean, almost sweet. He lay on a bed that seemed to hold him like gentle hands, adjusting to every small movement he made. His body was covered in something clear and cool. Some kind of healing gel, he realized. It hummed against his skin, and he could feel it working, repairing damage he could not see. Valori technology. He was on a Valori ship. Do-hwan tried to sit up. His muscles refused to cooperate. He was too weak. All he could do was turn his head and look around the room. That was when he saw her. She stood near the doorway, watching him. She was tall, taller than any human woman he had known. Her skin was silver blue, smooth and perfect like polished metal. Her eyes were violet, but darker than the child's eyes had been. There was something cold in them, something that had seen too much war. She wore a uniform of deep purple, decorated with symbols he did not recognize. But he understood power when he saw it. This woman was important. This woman was dangerous. "You are awake," she said. Her voice was strange, musical, with layers of sound that human throats could not make. But she spoke Terran clearly. "My physicians were not sure you would survive." Do-hwan's throat was dry. It took him several tries to speak. "How long?" 11 cycles, she answered. "Your spine was shattered. Your internal organs were failing. By all logic, you should have died in that room." She moved closer, her steps smooth and silent. "Yet here are." Do-hwan processed this information. 11 cycles was almost 2 weeks in human time. He had been unconscious for 2 weeks while aliens rebuilt his body. "The girl," he said. The words came out rough and urgent. "Is she safe?" The child who was trapped. Is she alive? The woman's expression changed. Something flickered in those cold violet eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or confusion. You ask about my daughter, she said slowly, before you ask why you are still alive. Before you ask if you are a prisoner. Before you ask anything about your own fate. She was scared, Do-hwan said simply. She was just a kid. Is she okay? The woman stared at him for a long moment. Then she moved to a chair beside his bed and sat down. Her posture was rigid, formal, but something in her face had softened slightly. My name is Yuna, she said. I am High Commander of the Valori Third Fleet. The child you saved is my daughter, Sora. She is unharmed. Because of you. Do-hwan let out a breath he did not know he was holding. The girl was alive. The girl was safe. Nothing else mattered. She has not stopped talking about you, Yuna continued. She calls you her guardian spirit. She asks to see you every day. She made me promise to keep you alive. A pause. I do not break promises to my daughter. Thank you, Do-hwan said, for saving me. You did not have to. No, Yuna agreed. I did not. By military law, I should have let you die, or kept you alive only long enough to question you. You are an enemy soldier. You invaded my ship. You killed my people. I'm a medic, Do-hwan said. I don't fight. I just try to keep people alive. And yet, you were on that ship with a weapon. I never fired it. Not once. Yuna studied him with those unreadable eyes. My soldiers found your rifle. The power cell was damaged, but they checked its records. You speak the truth. You did not fire a single shot during the entire battle. Do-hwan said nothing. He had never been comfortable with killing. Even in war, even against enemies, he tried to find another way. His commanders called it weakness. Maybe it was. Among my people, Yuna said, there is an ancient concept. We call it the life debt. When someone saves your life at great cost to themselves, a bond is created. This bond cannot be ignored. It cannot be paid with words or money. It demands something deeper. She leaned forward slightly. You saved my daughter's life. You nearly died doing so. By Valori law, I owe you a debt that I can never fully repay. This creates a problem. I don't want anything, Do-hwan said. I didn't save her for a reward. I saved her because she needed help. That, Yuna said quietly, is exactly what makes this so complicated. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars drifted past in the darkness of space. They were moving, traveling somewhere far from the battle where everything had changed. I have been fighting humans for 12 years, she said, her back to him. I have studied your kind. I thought I understood you. Aggressive, emotional, driven by greed and fear. That is what we are taught. That is what I believed. She turned to face him. Then you came onto my ship. You found my daughter, alone and trapped and dying. You could have walked away. You could have left her to burn. No one would have known. No one would have blamed you. She was the enemy's child. She was a child, Do-hwan repeated. That's all I saw. Just a scared little kid who needed help. Yuna crossed her arms. Do you understand how rare that is? Among my people, among yours? War makes monsters of us all. It teaches us to see enemies instead of people. Yet you looked at my daughter and saw only a child. Maybe I'm just stupid, Do-hwan said with a weak smile. Maybe, Yuna agreed. But there was no mockery in her voice. Or maybe you are something my people have never encountered before. A human with a gentle heart. She moved back to the door, but paused before leaving. You are not a prisoner here, Park Do-hwan. You are not a guest either. I do not know what you are. But until I figure it out, you will stay. You will heal. and you will not be harmed. And then what? Do-Han asked. Yuna looked back at him, and for a moment, her cold mask slipped. He saw something underneath. Curiosity, uncertainty, maybe even the smallest hint of warmth. I do not know, she admitted. For the first time in many years, I truly do not know. She left the room, and Do-Han was alone with his thoughts. He was alive. He was on an enemy ship. He was in the debt of an alien commander. His entire future was uncertain, but somewhere on this ship, a little girl was safe and unharmed. Do-Han closed his eyes and smiled. Whatever came next, he could face it. Some things were worth any price. Some things made sense even when nothing else did. He had saved a child. That was enough. That would always be enough. Weeks passed like dreams. Do-Han healed slowly, his body growing stronger each day under the care of Valori medicine. When he was finally able to walk again, Yuna moved him from the medical ship to her personal estate. The estate sat on a small moon called Mireth. It was the most beautiful place Do-Han had ever seen. Crystal forests stretched across rolling hills, their branches catching light and scattering it into rainbows. 2 suns hung in the sky, one golden and one pale blue. They never fully set, keeping the world in a state of endless sunset. His room was larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. The bed was soft. The food was strange but good, and nobody treated him like a prisoner. But he was not free either. Guards stood at every exit. The estate was surrounded by energy barriers. He could walk anywhere inside, but he could not leave. A golden cage, he thought. Beautiful, but still a cage. The first time he met Sora properly, she ran at him like a small comet. She crashed into his legs and wrapped her arms around him so tight he nearly fell over. "You are awake," she cried. "You are really awake. Mother said you were sleeping for so long. I was so worried." Do-Han knelt down to look at her properly. She was just as he remembered, silver blue skin and huge violet eyes. But now those eyes were bright with joy instead of fear. Small horns curved from her temples like a crown. "Hello," he said gently. "You must be Sora. You remembered my name." She bounced on her feet. "Mother told me your name too. You are Do-Han. But that is hard to say. Can I call you something else?" "You can call me whatever you want." She thought about this very seriously, her small face scrunched up in concentration. "I will call you Do, like the first sound, do. Is that okay?" "That's perfect," Do-Han said, and he meant it. From that day forward, Sora became his shadow. Wherever Do-Han went, she followed. She taught him words in her language, laughing when he pronounced them wrong. The Valori language had sounds that human throats simply could not make, musical tones that layered on top of each other. Do-Han tried anyway, and his failures made Sora giggle in return. He taught her human things. He showed her how to fold paper into shapes. Birds, boats, flowers. Sora was fascinated. She made him teach her again and again until her small fingers could create perfect paper cranes. "Humans make art from dead trees?" she asked one afternoon, holding up a paper butterfly. "We make art from everything," Do-Han said. "Paper, stone, paint, music, words. Humans need to create. It is part of who we are." "Valori create too," Sora said. "But only important things. Weapons, ships, buildings. Not tiny birds that cannot fly. Sometimes the tiny things matter most." Sora looked at her paper butterfly, then back at him. "I like tiny things," she decided. "I like human art." Yuna watched these interactions from a distance. She told herself she was simply observing the human, studying his behavior, looking for threats. But the truth was more complicated. She found herself lingering near windows where she could see them in the garden. She found herself listening to their laughter. She found herself wondering, One evening, she went to find Dowan herself. He sat in the observatory, a glass-domed room at the top of the estate. Stars filled the sky above him. He looked small beneath them, small and far from home. "Do you miss your people?" she asked, sitting down nearby. Dowan did not seem surprised by her presence. "Sometimes. I miss my friends from the ship. I miss Earth, even though I have not been there in years. I miss the smell of rain and the taste of coffee." "Coffee?" "A drink we make from beans. It is bitter and wonderful. Humans cannot function without it." "You are a strange species," Una said, but there was no insult in her words. "So are you," Dowan replied. "But strange is not bad. Strange is just different." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The stars moved slowly overhead, distant suns in distant systems where other wars might be raging. "Can I ask you something?" Dowan said finally. "You may ask. I may not answer. Why did you save me? Really, you could have left me to die. It would have been easier, cleaner, no complicated debts, no political problems. Just one dead human among thousands." Una considered the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. "My daughter asked me to," she said at last. "She begged me. She said she could not live knowing her guardian spirit died to save her. She said she would never forgive me if I let you die." "And that was enough?" "I am a commander," Una said. "I have sent thousands to their deaths. I have made choices that haunt my sleep. But I am also a mother. When my daughter looks at me with those eyes, I cannot refuse her anything." She paused. "But that is not the only reason. What else?" Una turned to look at him directly. "I wanted to understand. My whole life, I have been taught that humans are monsters. Violent, selfish, cruel. Then you appeared on my ship and threw away your life for a child you had never met. A child who was your enemy. I needed to know why. I needed to know if you were special, or if all humans could be like this. What have you decided?" "I have not decided yet." She stood up to leave. "But I am beginning to think that everything I was taught might be wrong." She walked to the door, then stopped. "Sora has asked if you will read her a story before she sleeps. She wants a human story, one from your world. Will you?" Dowan smiled. "Of course." That night, he sat beside Sora's bed and told her the story of a wooden puppet who wanted to be a real boy. He changed some details so she would understand, made it simpler, but kept the heart of it. A story about wanting to belong, about becoming more than what you were made to be. Sora fell asleep with a smile on her face, clutching her paper butterfly. Dowan looked up to find Una standing in the doorway, watching them both with an expression he could not read. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being kind to her." "It is not hard," Dowan said. "She is easy to love." Something shifted in Una's eyes at the word love. Something warm and uncertain and new. "Yes," she whispered. "She is." She left before Dowan could respond. But that night, lying alone in her chambers, Una thought about the human and his gentle ways. She thought about how he smiled at her daughter. She thought about how he folded paper into impossible shapes. She thought about how he spoke of mercy like it was natural, like it was obvious, like anyone would have done what he did. She thought about him far longer than she should have. And somewhere in those quiet hours, something in her heart began to change. The messages started arriving 3 months after Dowan woke up. First came the whispers from the Valori High Council. Lady Una was keeping a human on her estate. A human who walked freely, who ate at her table, who played with her daughter. This was improper. This was dangerous. This was possibly treason. Then came the demands from her late husband's family. Lord Tarek had died 5 years ago in battle against humans. His memory was sacred. How dare Yuna disgrace his name by housing one of his killers? Finally came the word from the Terran Alliance. They knew Lieutenant Park Do-won was alive. They wanted him back. If Yuna did not return him, they would consider it an act of war. Yuna sat in her study, surrounded by messages that all demanded different things. Her head ached. Her heart ached worse. 3 months. In 3 months, everything had changed. She thought of Do-won teaching Sora to catch glowing insects in the Crystal Garden. She thought of their conversations late into the night, sharing stories about their worlds, finding more similarities than differences. She thought of how he made her laugh, something she had not done in years. She thought of how she looked forward to seeing him each morning. How empty the estate felt when he was not nearby. This was not supposed to happen. He was human. She was Valori. They were enemies by birth, by history, by blood. What she felt was impossible, but she felt it anyway. A knock came at her door. "Enter," she said. Do-won walked in, his expression concerned. He had learned to read her moods over these months. He knew when she was troubled. "What is wrong?" he asked. She handed him the messages without a word. He read them slowly, his face growing more serious with each one. "The Terran Alliance wants me back," he said quietly. "They will use me for propaganda. Parade me around as the hero who survived behind enemy lines. Make speeches about defeating the Valori. And the High Council wants you dead," Yuna added. "They say you are a spy. They say you have manipulated me into protecting you. They demand your execution." Do-won set down the messages. "What do you want?" The question was so simple, so direct, so human. "I do not know," Yuna admitted. "If I give you to the humans, I lose you. If I give you to the Council, I kill you. Either way, you are gone. Either way, Sora loses her guardian spirit. Either way, I lose." She stopped herself. The words were too dangerous. "Lose what?" Do-won asked softly. He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. Humans ran hotter than Valori. She had noticed this. She had noticed many things. "I cannot say it," she whispered. "Then let me say it." He took her hand carefully, gently, giving her every chance to pull away. She did not. "These 3 months have been the strangest of my life. I am trapped on an alien world, far from everything I knew. I should be miserable, but I am not. Because every day I wake up hoping to see you. Every night I go to sleep thinking about our conversations. You have become important to me, Yuna. More important than I ever expected." Her violet eyes met his brown ones. 2 species, 2 worlds, 2 sides of an endless war. None of it mattered in this moment. "This is impossible," she said. "Maybe," he agreed. "But here we are anyway." Before either could say more, alarms shattered the silence. Red lights flashed through the estate. Guards shouted in the corridors. Something was happening. Yuna pulled away, her commander instincts taking over. She touched a panel on her desk, and a holographic display appeared. Ships were entering orbit. Valori warships, bearing the marks of the High Council. "They did not wait for my answer," she said grimly. "They are coming to take you by force." Do-won's jaw tightened. "I will not let them hurt you or Sora. Tell them I will surrender. Tell them I will go quietly. No." The word came out fierce and final. "I will not give you to them. I will not let them kill you. I refuse. Yuna, be reasonable. If you fight the Council, you will be destroyed. Everything you have built, everything you have worked for. It will all be gone. Let it burn." She turned to face him fully, and her eyes blazed with something between fury and love. "I have spent my whole life being reasonable, being proper, being the perfect commander, the perfect widow, the perfect servant of the Empire. And where has it brought me? to an empty estate, a dead husband, and a daughter who smiles more with you than she ever has with me. She stepped forward and took both his hands. You saved my daughter. You brought light back into her eyes. You brought light back into mine. I will not repay that debt by letting you die. Then what will you do? Yuna smiled, and it was the smile of someone making a choice that would change everything. Something unprecedented. She led him to the great hall of the estate, where communications could reach every Valori world. Guards followed them, loyal to her personally rather than the council. Sora appeared too, sensing that something important was happening. Dowan lifted her into his arms without thinking, and she clung to him like he was her anchor in a storm. Yuna activated the broadcast. Her image would appear on millions of screens across the Empire. The High Council would see. The Terran Alliance would see. Everyone would see. People of Valori, she began, her voice ringing with authority. I am Lady Yuna of House Sereth, High Commander of the Third Fleet. Today I make an announcement that has no precedent in our history. She gestured to Dowan. Standing behind her was Sora in his arms. This human saved my daughter's life. He nearly died protecting her from the destruction of battle. Among our people, this creates a life debt that cannot be ignored. By ancient law, his life is now bound to mine. Murmurs would be spreading across the Empire. She pressed on. Today I declare this human, Park Do-hwan, as my Korethi, my honored protector, my chosen companion. Any who threaten him threaten House Sereth. Any who harm him answer to me. The word Korethi carried weight that even Do-hwan did not fully understand. It was a bond just short of marriage. A declaration that said this person belongs with me. The council demands his death, Yuna continued. The humans demand his return. I grant neither. He stays with me, under my protection, until the stars themselves go dark. This is my word. This is my law. Challenge it if you dare. She ended the broadcast. The silence that followed was heavy. Somewhere, alarms still wailed. Ships still circled overhead. A storm was coming, but Yuna stood tall, and Do-hwan stood with her, and between them Sora smiled like everything would be okay. Maybe it would not be okay. Maybe they had just started a fire that would burn them all, but they would face it together. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 6 months later, peace came to the galaxy. It did not come easily. Nothing worth having ever does. The months between Yuna's declaration and the final treaty were filled with danger, politics, and moments where everything nearly fell apart. The High Council sent assassins first. 3 times they tried to kill Do-hwan. 3 times they failed. The first was a poison in his food that Sora accidentally discovered when she tried to steal a sweet from his plate. The second was a sniper who missed because Do-hwan bent down to pick up a paper crane at exactly the right moment. The third was a soldier who got close enough to raise his blade, but found himself facing Yuna instead. She disarmed him in 2 moves and broke his arm in 3. No one touches him, she said to the council's representative who came to apologize. Send another assassin and I will return them in pieces. The Terran Alliance tried different tactics. They sent diplomats with offers. They would make Do-hwan a hero if he came home. They would give him medals, money, fame. All he had to do was leave the Valori commander and return to his people. Do-hwan refused every time. My people, he told them, are right here. Word spread across both civilizations. The story of the human who saved the enemy's child. The story of the commander who chose love over politics. Some called it scandal. Others called it hope. Young soldiers on both sides began to question the war. If a human and a Valori could find peace, why couldn't everyone? Letters were smuggled between battle lines. Secret meetings were held. A movement grew in the shadows. People on both sides who were tired of endless death. Yuna saw the opportunity and seized it. She reached out to moderate voices in the Terran Alliance, leaders who wanted peace but had no way to achieve it. She offered something unprecedented: neutral talks aboard Korn Station, the very place where everything began. The negotiations took months. Do-hwan attended every meeting at Yuna's side, a living symbol of what cooperation could achieve. He did not speak much during the formal sessions. He did not need to. His presence said everything. On the final day, both sides signed the Treaty of Corinth. The war was over. Borders were established. Trade routes were opened. Prisoners were exchanged. The galaxy exhaled. That night, there was a celebration aboard the station. Valori and humans mingled awkwardly at first, then less so as drinks were shared and stories were told. Someone started playing music. Someone else started dancing. For the first time in 12 years, the two species laughed together. Do-hwan slipped away from the crowd. He found his way to an observation deck, a quiet place with a view of the stars. He needed a moment alone, a moment to process everything that had happened. He had been a medic on a warship. Now he was part of galactic history. It still did not feel real. Footsteps behind him. He did not need to turn to know who it was. "You are missing the party," Yuna said, coming to stand beside him. "So are you. Parties are for people who enjoy small talk." "I do not," Do-hwan smiled. "Neither do I." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift past. Somewhere out there, worlds were waking up to news of peace. Children were being told they would not have to fight. Families were being reunited after years apart. "You could go home now," Yuna said quietly. "The war is over. Your people would welcome you. You would be a hero. I know. You would have a future there. A normal life. A human life." Do-hwan turned to look at her. She was staring straight ahead, her jaw tight, her hands clasped behind her back. She was trying so hard to be strong. She was trying so hard to give him permission to leave. "Is that what you want?" he asked. "Do you want me to go?" "I want you to be happy." Her voice cracked slightly. "Whatever that means for you." Do-hwan reached out and took her hand. She flinched at first, then relaxed. Her fingers intertwined with his silver blue against brown. "I spent 12 years in a war," he said. "Before that, I spent most of my life alone. I had friends, sure, people I cared about, but I never had a home, never had somewhere I belonged." He squeezed her hand gently. "Then I crashed through a ceiling and found a scared little girl, and her mother. And suddenly, I had something worth fighting for." Yuna finally looked at him. Her violet eyes were bright with unshed tears. Valori did not cry often. It was considered weakness. But here, alone with him, she allowed herself to feel. "I do not want you to go," she whispered. "I know it is selfish. I know it is unfair. But I cannot imagine my life without you anymore." "Then stop imagining it." Do-hwan stepped closer. "I'm not going anywhere. What about Earth? Your people? Your coffee?" He laughed softly. "Earth will always be part of me. But home is not a place. Home is people. Home is where you want to be when you wake up in the morning." He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "My home is with you and Sora, if you will have me." Yuna's response was not words. She pulled him close and pressed her forehead to his, a gesture of deep intimacy among her people. Their breath mingled. Their hearts beat close together. "I will have you," she said. "Today and tomorrow and for all the days after that." Behind them, the door opened. Sora stood there in her best dress, looking annoyed. "Are you two being romantic again?" she demanded. The dancing started, and I have no one to dance with. Do-hwan and Yuna separated, both trying not to laugh. "I guess we have been found," Do-hwan said. "So it seems." Yuna smiled, a real smile. free of the coldness she had worn like armor for so many years. "Shall we go dance with our daughter?" Our daughter. The words hit Do-hwan like sunlight after storm. Our daughter. "Yeah," he said, his voice thick. "Let's go dance." Sora grabbed both their hands and pulled them toward the celebration. Music drifted through the corridors. Lights sparkled. Laughter echoed. On the observation deck behind them, the stars continued their eternal dance. 2 suns rose over Vareth, one golden, one blue. The sky turned colors that had no names in any language. A new dawn. For the galaxy. For the Valori. For humanity. And for one small family, made from war but built on love, stepping together into a future brighter than any of them had dared to dream. Do-hwan looked at Yuna, glowing in the light of twin suns. He looked at Sora, bouncing with joy between them. He thought about all the choices that had led him here, all the moments that could have gone differently. He had saved a child because she needed saving. That was all. One simple act of kindness in a universe full of cruelty. And somehow, impossibly, wonderfully, it had changed everything. The music swelled. The dancing began. And somewhere in the stars, the old war slept at last, dreaming of the peace that brave hearts had finally won. This was not the ending. This was only the beginning.